hello. So could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Steve Fein. I'm a professor of psychology at Williams College in Williamstown, Massachusetts, which is in the northeast corner of Massachusetts. And I've been teaching here since the 90s, early 90s.
And where did you get your Ph.D.?
Got my Ph.D. at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor.
Okay. Describe your sense of fashion. Is it eclectic, classic, trendy, or random?
I'd say it's aggressively casual.
Okay. What's something that you're working on right now that you're excited about?
One thing I'm excited about is I've been doing some research with some students on basically looking at interventions based on perceptions of norms that could change how conservative Americans feel about issues related to gay rights. So, and we've had some success with it, which is pretty exciting, that we can sort of reconstrue what it means from a conservative angle to have same-sex marriage, for example. And it's it's a hard thing to pull given people's resistance, but we're having some success with it, which is exciting.
Tell us about one of your favorite conference experiences.
Do you know the song Folsom Prison Blues, which has that great line, "I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die"? So anyone who was with me at the Reno conference for SEP a number of years ago would... no, I really don't have any one particular conference member that stands out, but basically any time I'm in a conference with Bill Von Hippel, it's a good time.
What's the downside of your job?
I think the biggest downside may be that you can always be working. Right? It doesn't stop at 5. That's also the upside, that you can work whenever the inspiration strikes, and you have the freedom to decide what to work on and when. But you can always feel like I should be doing this or I could be doing that. There's no you have to be disciplined to shut that down sometimes. And teaching at a liberal arts college, the biggest downside is just grading. That takes a lot of time, and it's not that much fun. Everything else about my job I love, but the grading part is the one downside.
Tell us about one of your proudest achievements.
I had a really good hit the other day in softball, but I think that, I'm not 100% sure this is right, but I think that I did the first research that brought self-affirmation theory from where Claude Steele introduced it in the context of cognitive dissonance to something outside of that, particularly looking at prejudice. And I did it just as a grad student with another grad student. It was just a project that I think I was in my 3rd or 4th year in grad school, and Steve Spencer was a student of Claude Steele's, and he was a year, maybe 2 behind me, I can't remember. And the two of us just had the audacity to try this project, and it turned into something that I'd been working on for sort of the rest of my career. And it was, I'm just proud that we had the vision to do that. And obviously self-affirmation is used so many different kind of ways and so successfully. And I think we were the first ones to try that. So I feel proud about that.
If you were finishing high school today, would you pick the same path that led you to where you are now?
Yeah, I would have said when Apple stocks comes out, make sure you purchase some of those. But yeah, I didn't really, growing up, I didn't know adults who liked what they did for their careers. They worked to make a living, to just stay afloat. So I just thought I'd have to do that. And when I discovered psychology and social psychology and realized you can actually do that for a living, and I still feel amazingly lucky and that I stumbled into that, and it's a career that I continue to love.
What's a favorite way for you to spend your free time?
When I have 2 daughters who are now in their 20s, so they're not living at home anymore, and when we can all get together, that's my favorite thing. And unfortunately, they love being with us too, with my wife and me. So that's, in general, my favorite thing. More day to day, I have some pickup games and sports that we have a group that I really enjoy hanging out with and playing volleyball and softball and things like that. So that's probably my favorite sort of weekly kind of thing.
Are they faculty members, though?
There's some. That's one of the fun things. It's people from around town and people from every different perspective and background. And there's some people that have been playing, for years and years and years in this group, and others are new. So it's always a slightly new group, but they're from all over.
What's something that frustrates you about your field?
I think sometimes I feel that there's a little bit too much focus on like status and who's, like I remember going to conferences and someone would be talking, in a small group, and some bigger name would walk in the room. It's like, oh, there's Tony Greenwald, and let me get his attention. And a little bit too much on on that, and less on sometimes than on just doing it for the passion and doing it for the importance of the research, and more about what's going to get me ahead of my career, that kind of thing. And I don't think that's unique to my field, but it's something that I do see and feel a little bad about.
What's something that you get picky about, like a pet peeve?
I could care less. That's my biggest pet peeve. I could care less makes no sense. If you could care less, it might mean that you care a lot. So I couldn't care less. So that one drives me crazy. It is what it is another one. Like, wake me up when it is what it isn't, or it isn't what it is. So those are two pet peeves that kind of drive me crazy.
Name a song that describes your career so far.
Yeah. Well, I think the one that comes to mind is a very obscure one by Bruce Springsteen called Galveston Bay. And it's about a couple of different people experiencing like economic threat, and how they respond to it. And the threat of the potential of violence and certainly prejudice and bigotry. And it's the kind of thing I've been studying my entire life, just how perception of threat and feeling vulnerable and feeling insecure can lead to all kinds of different ways of responding to that, including things like prejudice and discrimination.
Do you have a book, a movie, or a TV show that you would particularly recommend?
Yeah, I think there's one movie that's just immensely charming, and every time I stumble onto it, I can't stop watching it. And it's a French movie called Amelie. So that one, I'm guessing whoever's watching this may not be familiar with, so I'd recommend that one.
Who's someone famous that you've met or saw?
Well, speaking of Bruce Springsteen, I did meet Bruce Springsteen once, and that was incredible. I was able to go through a Williams student, had a connection years ago with Bruce's management. We were able to go backstage, and I assumed it would be me and a whole bunch of people, but it was actually a room with just Bruce in it. So we got to chat for like 10 minutes, and and sometimes they say don't meet your heroes, but it couldn't have been better. So that was a highlight for me.
Where was that?
That was in Boston,
Oh.
the Orpheum Theater.
What's a well-established finding in psychology that you think more people should know about?
Well, there's a few that come to mind, but I think the one that, and this can transition back to the pet peeve thing, is a lot of people think that they have sort of clinical insight into, this person looks guilty or doesn't look guilty, or they think that they can make judgments based on their own implicit, intuitive theories, and how wrong that often is. They're not aware of the role of social context, and not aware of different cultural backgrounds that could color how people, their body language and things like that. So people think they have this insight into, a guilty person or an innocent person wouldn't act like that. It's just nonsense.
Do you teach? And if so, what do you teach?
I do teach. I teach Intro to Social Psych. I teach a Stereotypes and Prejudice seminar. I teach statistics, research methods. At Williams, we have a unique way of teaching intro psych. We have 5 different faculty, each from neuroscience, cognitive, developmental, clinical, and social, teach their area for a couple weeks. And so I teach that in the rotation, which I really enjoy, because you can have just 2 weeks of greatest hits in your area, and it's what you're passionate about, what you think is the best area, and then someone else does their thing for their area. So I enjoy that.
I think while we're here at Williams, we should mention, what are your class sizes like?
Yeah, so, the seminar could be single digits or, teens, and we sort of cap it so that it doesn't get bigger than that. We have tutorials where it's just 2 students and a faculty member meeting every week. And social psych happens to be the most popular area here in our department. And so that can get, sometimes we cap it at 50, but it can also, we can sometimes let it get as large as 180, 200, which is, a tenth of the Williams population. But so we'll do that.
Who's somebody that you consider your role model?
Yeah, I don't. The person I might admire the most in the field, just over the years, for a number of reasons, is Claude Steele. I just think the way he does work, the way he lives his life, the way he writes. Not that I could model myself after him; that would be absurd. But he's someone who is like, I look at his career, and I think that's sort of kind of perfection.
What's a bit of advice you might have for living a good life?
For me, it's really the recognition that time only goes in one direction, and that's could not be more trite and obvious. But somehow, I remember when I dropped off my daughters at college and left them and went home, and just this crushing weight of like, oh man, I should have done more. I wish I'd spent more time doing this. And I was someone who did spend a lot of time with my girls, but realizing that family time and having a work-life balance is so essential, so important for me, for happiness. And especially when they were young, I feel like I was just working too hard all the time, again, because you can work out after hours. And so I think that just realizing you can't go back and fix that, you can't edit and post. So that to me, just work-life balance and realizing you're not going to get that time back. So whatever you're doing, including in your work, you better be doing it for the right reasons and be something that you really feel good about and passionate about. And you're not just doing it to get, okay, this will get a publication, but you're spending that time in a way that you want to be spending that time.
What's your favorite city in the world?
I love New York City, Manhattan in particular. That's my go-to place. I think if I were traveling, I've only been there twice briefly, but Paris is just absolutely gorgeous to me and interesting. And so that might be my, if I was taking a plane somewhere.
What was a course you took as an undergraduate that was especially enjoyable or memorable?
I think really all the social psych classes I had at Princeton, because I had, people like Joel Cooper, John Darley, Ned Jones. These are, true giants in the field and people who I admired greatly. They were the people who introduced me to the field. And so Ned Jones had a class on, I think, called Person Perception. And the seminar, I absolutely, that was just the best thing in the world for me. Just my intro social class, like with Joe Cooper. My first was exposed to social psychology. I'll never forget that either.
And what do you hope to be doing 10 years from now?
I hope to be sipping a beverage somewhere beautiful and commemorating the 10th anniversary of this interview.
Well, thank you.
Maybe with you.
Yeah, we'll do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great.